So what really got me here was a long history of service work in the car industry. I was a service manager for about 20 years for dealerships out in Colorado and South Carolina. And then who started this business was BJ, my stepfather, and my mother, Kat Davis. And they came down here and they wanted to do something for the local community, basically a way to pass time since they were both retired, and they were helping out BJ's mom since his dad expired. But they were looking for something to do. And BJ remembered back in his college days, they did a tour of St. James, aquaculture and aquaponics and everything like that. And he thought it was really neat, just the way everything vibed together. So he decided they would start that here. So they were the first originals people to build this company up. Basically back in 2013. They hand built this whole structure, they put everything together, they put all the fish, they started out with koi fish and everything like that. And then they started selling the products to the local farmers markets and stuff like that. Came time point, the ultimate goal for them was to have something of a legacy to pass down to other children. And BJ has 3 kids and they didn't want to do it. And I have a brother and sister on my mom's side and they didn't want to do it. And being me who I am, I like change, I'm okay. So I said I'd come out and help and see how I went. Probably within the first 2 days I fell in love with it. It's just a really exciting opportunity to be able to give back to the community, not only just agriculturally, but environmentally. We've done a lot of research to build this product. We've done a lot of research to put new things in. We'll be going into microgreens. We'll be also expanding more businesses and everything like that. The ultimate goal is to make sure that we can give back to the environment, because we've got to really be careful of what we leave behind for our children. And part of that is we got to leave water behind. And that's the main advantage of this thing, is it's so environmental friendly that once we get a second greenhouse up and going, I'll be able to use 0 water discharge for growing a head of lettuce, which means I basically use 0 gallons of water that are wasted on it. But it really, really helps us out to get what we do out there, because even if you don't grow something like this big, if you have it in your backyard or something like that, I've helped out some of our neighbors who started one. It's just better overall for water and everything. Not everybody understands that if we just go ahead and do what's right, in the end, it works out a lot better for everybody. It may lose money up front. We are just now starting to break even since 2013. We're just now starting to break even. Once I get the second greenhouse up, we'll start running a profit. But that's how long it took us to get to this point, okay? But I've saved probably, I'd say at least 1 million gallons of water, and I've helped people out more than I could count money worth. Profit shouldn't overcome green, healthy environment. It should never overcome that. And the reason why I say that is because if you're doing something green for the environment, you're doing something right. I produce lettuce for local restaurants, spas, and then we give educational tours to local schools and everything like that. I do pretty much everything here, all the way from morning to when we close up and everything like that.
Wake up at around anywhere from 4 to 5 during the summer. Winters, we wake up a little later because it's much cooler. We'll start by feeding the fish, and then we'll put chemicals and minerals in the system to help support the plants. We'll make sure everything's fine, no leaks, the fish are fine, and then we'll usually start with harvesting. Since it's the coolest part of the day, you don't want the plants to wilt when you take them out of the water, and then we'll move to transferring out of or into the NFT. And then we'll clean up, we'll do whatever cleaning we need to do for the day, and then we'll call it good.
Our main job is to clean and keep the place up, and if our dad needs our help, we could just harvest real quick, or we could transfer in or out of the NFT. Yeah, our main job is to just keep the place in good condition.
Size of this facility, it's a hard day's work if one person's doing it. I fortunately am in a great family situation where I have 2 younger sons that help me out in the greenhouse. But 2 people can technically just run it full time. There's more just attention to details, cleaning and everything like that. So something like this is about a 2-person job. When I get the second greenhouse up, we're doubling the size. I probably just need one more person at that point because it's not we're getting more fish tanks or anything like that. We're just growing. It's more for the harvesting side of it. And again, harvesting is about 30% of it, and the rest is just keeping a clean environment. If you want to go larger, it'd be easy to say you could probably get a good 8 to 10 people in there working and producing and everything and be just fine and make a profit on it after a while.
Usually we work from anywhere from 4 to 7 hours a day. We work about 6 days a week, 30 to 40 hours a week maybe, sometimes less, but it just depends on what we need to get done. When we first moved here, we just started by helping out whenever we were asked to. Our schedule has changed over the years, but we've worked here fully for about 2.5 years. Whenever school's in, we'll work on the weekends and we'll go to school on the weekdays. In dire times, like if we really need to work, we won't take school off. We'll just wake up early, get whatever stuff we need to get done, and then go to school. But that's on very rare occasions. So we'll just work on the weekends and get paid for the weekends. And then during the summer, we'll work full-time every day for the whole week.
So volume output, the way I've set the goals is we want to at least produce about 1,200 boxes a year out of one side, which is this side, which basically breaks it down to about 90 to, on average, 90 boxes in the winter and about 110 in the summer. Now it does slow down a little bit. So we come in here every day. Our goal is to harvest at least 5 to 6 boxes. Now each box contains anywhere from 10 heads, which are big Tropicana plants, but our average box size is anywhere from 25 to 35 heads of lettuce. So we move roughly about 200 to 300 plants a day. Okay, it's a continuous cycle because of the way the system's set up. So we'll put some in, then we'll move some plants from the NFT into the raft beds, and then from the germination into the NFT, and then I seed. So it all just keeps going. So like I said, we're looking to do about 1,200 boxes a year just on this side alone. This is kind of a new venture for us as far as selling fish, because typically we've sold the fish to like bass ponds because we used to do bluegill, but with tilapia, it's real popular in the restaurants right now. Once we get the second greenhouse up, I'll be cycling each tank every 6 months. So for example, this is tank 1. Once that gets going, tank 1, we're gonna go buy new fish for the other 2 tanks, and in 6 months, we'll sell all the fish in this. We'll sell it as live because we can't do produce, like, you know, we're in production basically of live animals. You have to have a special license, a whole different setup or anything. But a lot of the local restaurants want live fish as anyways, so they dress it and they can do it. But we'll sell them probably about 30 to 40 pounds at a time, which in all reality is probably about 20 fish, and there's 250 fish in a tank. So I'll be able to cover all my restaurants and everything like that. First thing we do when we come into a greenhouse is obviously biosecurity is very important for us. So as you guys witnessed, we'll put on some hand sanitizer, and then we'll put on the Varicon on the feet and wipe it off, just so that way we don't have any biocontaminants or any seeds outside of what we want to plant. So you'll notice to our right, this is our first system setup. We're actually going to change this out a little bit, and I'll explain that to you. But this is actually a nursery. This is enclosed off of the whole system, so it doesn't run anywhere off of the fish water or anything like that. And it leads to a separate bed, which we'll be planting herbs with. But we're actually going to gut this whole system and put another 500-gallon tank right here with its own biobeads and stuff like that. If you look to over here, this is our purge system right here. What that is also an enclosed system. And that's when I harvest the fish to sell to restaurants. We put them in there, and it's a mixture of salt water and regular water, right? And what that does is allows them to purge for about 2 days. And then we can sell the fish as live to some of the restaurants that want it and everything. The other good thing though is if I happen to have a sick fish, I put it in there, isolate it, and kind of keep an eye on the other fish. But we can nurse them back to health. We don't want to just, oh, sick fish, gone and done. So that's what we call it in the purge system. So, but what we'll do is we'll start off with the most important part. This whole system operates off of basically fish waste. We carry tilapia now, okay? Arizona actually changed the rule that we can use tilapia now. They were worried about invasive species in the Verde River and everything like that. We used to run bluegill and catfish and koi. Just doesn't seem to do as well, especially trying to sell the fish or anything like that. But tilapia is a real good source of nutrients for the system. As you can see, I've only got 2 tanks up because they feed enough for this whole greenhouse. When I get the second greenhouse up, we'll operate all 4 tanks. But they're just ferocious eaters. They eat everything. And we have to feed them about 5 times a day. So each feeding is based off of body mass and that weight of the fish. So basically, for every pound, it's 5% in grams that we feed them. So right now they're doing about 600 grams of food in each tank. So it's about 1,200 grams. And that produces the waste. Now you notice you got a center pipe here. So all the waste gets filtered and sucked in through the center pipe. There's drilled holes through there. And we also have inlet water that gets pumped up. So all the fish waste comes right over to here. This is what's called a clarifier. So the clarifier is what actually takes the fish waste and separates solids from nutrients, okay? The solids will sit there and float at the top and everything. Now we just cleaned it this morning for you guys, so. But it'll sit at the top, and then the rest of the nutrients kind of get circled in, and then they get dumped into what's called a mince tank. Now the mince tanks hold bad bacteria, okay? They break down all the bad bacteria so it doesn't enter the system. All the good bacteria will lead down into, I'll show you the bio bead filter. So, but this is this whole system just runs off of a big loop. So right now we carry about 262 in this first tank, 265 in that second tank. So, and the rule of thumb is about for every gallon of water, believe it or not, it's about half a pound of fish. So technically, I'm a little over, but it's okay. they're not hurting. As far as clientele looks like, what we are currently doing is just restaurants and spas and resorts. A couple of our good restaurants, shout out to Red Rooster, Enchantment, Amara, La Berge. I just picked up Renee out in Sedona as well. We also do Gerardo's out in Sedona. But we're always trying to build business, and believe it or not, a lot of it is word of mouth because the chefs talk to each other. And this Renee restaurant, the owner of it, he actually knows Gerardo, who I sell to, and Gerardo was like, hey, you gotta try this guy's lettuce out. So we typically just do restaurants. Now, if someone were to come up and ask me, hey, I'd like to buy some lettuce, I'm not opposed to doing that. I don't mind doing that at all. Individual sales are just as much welcome as anything else. Typically, we just ask you, just give me a heads up. You can come in, you can pick out what you want. Typically, I have enough for everybody, so it's not a big problem or anything like that. Again, our typical clientele is restaurants and resorts and spas.
I like going on deliveries and meeting like new clients and stuff. So just recently, we had this new client at the Renee restaurant in Sedona. His name is Orlando. I mean, he's really funny. It's what you're supposed to do, but he opened the box of lettuce and he grabbed it, he picked off the leaf, and then he just shoved it in his mouth. I mean, I've never seen any of our other clients do that, but it was funny. And then he just stuck his head in the lettuce, and it was really funny. But we don't really work with a fish a lot unless it's cleaning. So I don't like cleaning that much. I guess I pick the plants because, I don't know, I like packing the boxes. So after we have them harvested, like all the bad leaves picked off and we have them rinsed down, I like packing the box. I like making it pretty, like it's my own piece of art. And you know, they are really pretty. Like I like the final outcome of the plants, and then we show it to our clients, and you know, I'm the one who packed that box. I'm the one who made it look pretty, so you know.
So our average weight right now is about 1.2 pounds per each fish. There's a couple that are bigger, a couple that are smaller, but we like to be able to see them and keep a good, healthy eye. So once they're done eating and they get done pooping, all that comes down to these big 4-inch PVC pipes into the clarifier. And like I said, the clarifier separates the waste, and then we also separate the good bacteria from the bad bacteria. So the bad bacteria is anaerobic, so it doesn't get air, and we just leave it to break down, okay? We don't use it, we don't want it. The good bacteria, however, flows down into this pipe into what's called a biobead filter. So BioBead filter is just filled up with all these little plastic beads, right? And as you can see, they've got brown on them, and that brown is actually the good bacteria. And all these do is provide more surface area for the bacteria to grow. So what we're looking for is make sure that these are all covered with brown. They're not dried or crusty or anything like that. And the best way to do it is obviously keep them in a tank and then aerate it, because you want to keep the bacteria, the good bacteria alive by aerating it. And then that filters over into what's called a degas tank. So this is kind of where the mixture of regular fish water, a little bit of the minced water, but mainly the BioBead water gets mixed in, right? And it also releases any CO2 built up in the system, okay? So we make sure that everything's good to go as far as CO2. We'll also mix any chemicals that we need to add. Now, when I say chemicals, it's natural chemicals, because this system produces a lot of nutrients for the plants, but there's 3 things that it doesn't produce that the plants need. First one's calcium, okay? And that gives a good protection against leaf tip burn, stronger roots, a little bit of a better leaf structure. The second one is potassium. So basically, it's a cell enhancer for the plants to grow out in different colors and everything. And the last one is iron, because the fish don't produce any iron. Now, one thing that you need to know is the reason why we use fish for the fertilizer is because fish is cold-blooded. So no cold-blooded disease can actually transfer to a warm-blooded person, okay? But like I said, we keep an eye on, you know, their health and everything, make sure they're not sick. And if they are, we separate them and everything like that. So from the degasser, it goes right up in here. And these are the water-blooded plants. And as you can see, we grow all the lettuce on these floating rafts, okay? And I've got various different plants that we grow. We'll lift this up for you. So what happens is the water flows right underneath the roots here, and the roots pick up all the nutrients, okay? And then it just circles all the way down and around, and then back into the leveling tank and back up into the fish. So it's all circular right here. But there is another couple pit stops, because you can't just get these plants from the store like this and expect them to grow like that. We actually go from seed all the way up to harvest on it. And by the way, this is our margarita tree. This is our lime tree. So it actually produces limes year round. So I don't have to worry about a season or anything like that. It's one advantage of having a greenhouse. So what we'll do is we'll start over here, what's called the germination bed. So as you can see here, this one's a little dirty. So what we do is we actually soak it with a little bit of bleach, and then we suck it out with a vacuum cleaner. So we just started soaking it today. We'll get this cleaned out and everything like that, so we can switch the trays over and then clean this one. But what we actually start with is what's called a grow den. It's a media bed for plants to grow. And this one was freshly planted as of yesterday, okay? And what we do is we soak the grow den, and then when each individual hole, we put a seed in, okay? And as you can tell by the tags, we can tell which ones are which. So we've got Asian Rosy, which I'll show you in the plant there. The real beautiful pak choi, deep purple leaves and everything like that. So, but what we do is when we seed it, we keep it out of the light, and then the next day we'll put it up front, and then it goes through the growth cycles. This is about 10 days after seeding. So after 10 days, what we'll do is we'll take the tray out and we'll cut them into little cubes, and then we'll transfer them into what's called an NFT. So if you look right over here, an NFT is what's called nutrient film technology. Trays have water flowing through them, okay? And then all the nutrients on the bottom gather for the plants to soak up and everything like that. Same idea, just a smaller version. This allows us to hold a little bit longer to grow more plants. So technically I can double the production by holding these for another 10 days. And that's how long they stay in, it's about 10 days. They start off about this small, and then usually about when they get to about this big is when we start transferring them. We want them about an inch or two and have good leaf color and everything. Lets me decide whether the plant's actually going to be harvestable later on or not. Now all these plants use the sunlight. That's the great thing about the greenhouse, is plenty of sunlight. But you also notice we have LED lights up here, and we simulate blue light because we want it to vegetate more, okay? And blue light gives more vegetation to it. That's also a blue light. We'll start changing the lights right around the water beds to more of a little bit of a red-violet light, because that gives the color. It builds an enzyme in the plant to actually change the color. So once we're done here, we'll pull them out, and then that's when we start laying them into the raft beds. So for example, when we're talking about color, this is called a Thernius. This is actually just a romaine, okay? But you can tell that it's got this deep purple, kind of a magenta color. And that's due because the lighting, we changed to a red, more red hue, or would be the case. The next one's a Butterhead, same deal, okay? So this is like my mixed greens. I'll mix them all into a box for our customers and everything like that. Takes probably about 25 plants to a box, and that lasts the restaurant about a week or so for a box, would be the case. So now the neat thing about this whole process is if you were to plant these same plants in the ground, if you look on the seed packets, it's anywhere from 55 to 65 days for maturity or harvest. In this system, we actually cut about 10 to 15 days down, okay? So what happens is, because they're getting constant nutrients, constant airflow, constant oxygen, it speeds the process up. Plus we give it a little bit more energy to do its thing and basically produce better lettuce for it. The other thing that we like to notate is, if you were to grow a head of lettuce in the ground, it takes about 26 gallons of water. Now this is why I love this job, especially in an area that we live in. Instead of producing one head of lettuce with 26 gallons of water in the ground, I use 2 gallons of water, okay? Huge difference, okay? I probably do, on average, about, I'd say I'd harvest probably about 200 plants every given day, okay? And if you took that times 2, I basically only use 400 gallons of water versus the 26, what's that, almost 1,000, about 1,000, 1,500 worth of gallons of water to produce 4 boxes of lettuce, okay? That's a big difference, and that helps our community out, that helps our Verde Valley out, helps our local growers out, our local livestock and everything. And it makes a big impact, because when you're producing this much food, you want to have least impact on the environment as possible. So, and then like I said, it all flows up right through here and then back up the top there. I know it's a little hot in here, but there's actually 2 different time zones in this area. The one where we're, or sorry, time zones, heat zones. One where we're at and one up above. So if you look above the shade cloth, that's about a 20-25% shade cloth. It's about another 15 to 20 degrees hotter up there. And then we got fans that pump it out, and what be the case. So that's why we have the shade cloth. We also have a fog coat system that gets going. It's basically a mister for everything and keeps it down about another 10 degrees.
To help with the humidity that comes from that, we do have dehumidifiers in here. But the heat is a big deal, but that's also, we have ventilation systems on each side of the greenhouse and the top to let cool air in and to push hot air out, and that's what those fans up there are doing.
Sometimes plants will be too small before we can give it to the client, so we have to like pack the box with a lot of plants. The heat is crucial, but it's not really part of the job. It's just a factor.
It would probably take the amount of lettuce that I grow here, it'd probably take, I'd say, at least 500 to 600 acres worth of space what I can pull out in a year in this space.
The LEDs, it's cheaper than other light systems, energy-wise.
The LEDs we have right now was $5,000 a unit. Now you can get just as good as LED for like 300 bucks. LEDs is the biggest difference you can see in a greenhouse. If I was on land, it'd be the tractors, it'd be the collectors and everything like that, but I'm not. A lot of this stuff is just what I call bolts to nuts, and that's it. I mean, we could get into, well, how do you measure your pH and stuff like that? You don't even need a computer to do that. You can do it by strips or whatever the case, but we do use a little thermometer and everything like that, just because I like to be a little bit more exact on my temperatures. If I was on a larger scale, yes, then it would be the automation system, okay? Automated watering, automated lights, everything like that, if I was on a bigger scale. But with these 2 greenhouses, I don't have to do that. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and I think that, you know, if we could use this as an example and put it in smaller towns rural areas, I think we'd be a lot better off. The other concern is carbon footprint. So these big farmers, they like to ship their corn out and everything like that. It goes all over the place. That's not what this is designed for. This is for local. Okay, I use a 100-mile radius. That's it. Okay, if I want to deliver out past it, I better have enough money saved up to build another one right outside that, because that would be the ultimate goal. Not only does it help the community, then I've got job opportunities for people. But we need people here in a greenhouse being socially responsible for their actions. And when I say that, I mean, it's not hard for people to help the environment out if they're just conscious of what they do. Small things, don't let water run if you're not using it, stuff like that. But if you have a chance to ever actually start a greenhouse, do it, it's worth it.
I do enjoy working with the plants, and but my favorite part about working with the plants is supplying it to others. And so I do like working with people. I love going to the chefs like my dad and them expressing their love for my hard work.
What I like about the restaurants I serve to is not only do they embrace the fact that I am giving and providing their lettuce, and knowing that what I do for the environment is their willingness to embrace that type of change. As far as the technical aspects of a greenhouse, building, design, and everything like that, we actually consulted with Nelson and Pade. They do this on a larger scale. Okay, they're a company that hires, I think they got about 25 employees, that would be the case. But they also sell all the equipment for a greenhouse, the actual greenhouse and everything like that. And they give us a lot of good information to do a lot of the technical and engineering side of it. But they design it, right? And then they ship it out and we put it together, or we have somebody else put it together. We're having a third party put it together for us this time. Because it took us probably about 1.5 years to build this size of it. Anybody can start this. It just depends on what scale you want. You can start at a small scale of in your backyard garden to a big medium scale, probably at like a hoop house or something like that, to a large scale to something like this. And they even have larger scales than this, which is like 10 times as big as this, or whatever the case. Anybody can start. It's just how much you want to invest at first. This type of size does cost a pretty good chunk of initial investment. When you look at investment, I look at investment not just as in money, but as in I'm saving this much water from being wasted. I'm helping these people out. When we went through COVID, all the restaurants shut down. I didn't stop growing. I donated to the food banks. The reason for that is because they need help too. I still donate to the food banks. Whenever I have a spare box and I don't need it, and it's fresh picked, it goes straight to a food bank because I don't need it. It's not just an investment in the building, it's an investment in people and into your community. People call organic when you can use organic pesticides. I use nothing like that. It's all natural. If I got a pest on my hands, I got a bigger bug that'll eat that pest. Doesn't matter. I'll take care of myself the natural way. So no matter who you are, if you're trying to get into this door and learn about it, a good place to start is the internet. Nelson Pade actually offers classes. I didn't do mine in person, I had to do it over the internet. They offer master classes, starting classes, and stuff like that. I learn something every day in this system, so it doesn't matter, you're always learning. But you want to get your first initial idea and game plan together through a tried and true system, like Nelson Pade does it. Probably took me about 5 days to go through the whole internet class to get just the basics on it, and then another 5 days to learn the more technical aspects of it and everything like that. So 10 days to get your foot in to a business that helps out is really good. You don't have to have a college degree. That's the beautiful part about it. You don't have all the stress. You do have the workload though. And as long as you're committed to it, you'll be fine. When you start out with this, just learn about it first, okay? Because it's not everybody's cup of tea. They may think something in their head, but once they actually step into the system, they're like, oh, maybe not, okay? But you've only wasted 10 days of your life to know something, right? You could go do something else, or you can dive head in. I just dove head in because, let's face it, I'm kind of wishy-washy that way sometimes. I'll just go right into it, and if I like it, good. If I don't, I'll still do it. No, I'm just kidding. I love this job. I run this with my family, okay? It started out by my family. But family can be more than just blood. Your employees can be your family too. It's important to know people, and it's important to know your community. I would say if you invest in this system, you're going to ultimately invest in the people around you. It's just natural. You may not know you're doing it, but you're doing it. I probably said the best thing about this place right here is I do have my 2 sons with me. Sometimes they don't like working in here, but they understand what they're doing here. And I think it's important for kids to know that. We gotta start them out young. I'm a firm believer all of society's problems can be negated with the start of kids. We can erase a lot of things if we just do our kids right. The system helps them with that work ethic, how to work along with each other, with other people. I invite other people's kids if they want to come work with me. I don't have a problem with that. You know, I gotta be of legal age or whatever the case. But as long as I get to teach somebody new something new.